We have been in a depression for years now. For the last 6 years, prices of everything have been spiraling out of control, and now it literally costs an arm and a leg just to keep the lights on. And the craziest part to me is that nobody is acknowledging this. So I wanted to compare some numbers from the Great Depression in the early 1900s and from what we're calling today the greatest depression from what is happening right now. And maybe you'll start to understand where I'm coming from. And real quick, hit that subscribe button. It's literally free and you'll probably never see this channel again, so it comes at no risk to you. Hit that subscribe button and be my 25th subscriber. All right, so in order to fully understand what's going on, we first need to look at the numbers from the 1930s. So in the 1930s, the average income was $1,300 per year. Rent was $216 per year, or $18 per month. The average car only cost $600. And the average house was $3,900. All right, now let's compare those numbers to 2026. So the average income for 2026 is $56,000. Rent is $24,000 a year, or $2,000 a month. The average car costs $48,000. And the average house costs $436,000. Now, full disclaimer, these numbers will probably be different depending on where you live, but for the sake of this video, I explicitly compared the numbers in Kansas from the 1930s versus Kansas from 2026. That way we're getting a fair argument of how much the prices have increased. And I need you to understand the numbers from the 1930s were considered bad. That is why it was called the Great Depression. And as we can see in 2026, the numbers are even worse by a very large margin. So again, this is why we're calling it the Greatest Depression. So I think the biggest line item here is the cost of a house. So in 1930, a house costed 3 times your yearly salary, meaning that if you were probably living decently well and able to put some money into savings, you could probably have your house paid off in 5 to 7 years. In 2026, the average house cost is 8 times the average income, meaning that if you're working really hard and you somehow find a way to save money, you can probably have your house paid off in maybe 27 years, which is absolutely insane. And that's if you're really attacking the mortgage. And I just listened to Dave Ramsey argue this point. It was literally yesterday's Ramsey's Solutions podcast, I think they're calling it. He was arguing all about, houses in 1930s didn't have dual pane windows and really good air conditioners, stuff like that. And honestly, Dave, if we could get that type of house for a lower cost in 2026, I guarantee a lot of people would. But unfortunately, that's not an option. And what we have today is what we have to deal with. So even though back then houses were not the same and they got to be cheaper, it doesn't equate to today because we can't even get into a house for that price. All right, next thing on here, the car payment. I know a lot of people want to get a very, very cheap car so that way they can save money. But in full honesty, you cannot get a cheap, reliable car for anything less than 20 to 23 grand, which is absolutely insane to me. So $48,000 being the average price of a new car in 2026 doesn't entirely tell the story. But being able to buy a brand new car in 1930 for less than half of your yearly income was absolutely insane because, again, in 2026, if you want to buy that same type of car, let's just say, a basic Honda Civic or something like that, something reliable, it almost costs your entire yearly income just to buy that car, which is absolutely insane. And equating in that, people won't be able to save their entire yearly income because they're being completely shredded up by rent, food prices, insurance. I mean, it would take years and years to be able to save for a car that's $48,000. And in full honesty, I think that's why people are getting themselves into debt because they need things like a reliable car. And reliable cars have not been cheap for the last 15 years. So here we are again. People are forced to take loans and forced to put themselves in debt. Now, final thing here, I wanted to talk about the rent prices. rent was $18 a month, meaning that every single month, only 16.5% of their income would go into their housing costs. In 2026, with the numbers I gave you, this means that 43% of the average person's paycheck would be going into their living expense. So here we go again. It is literally impossible to live cheap when 43% of your income goes into living. And again, this is without even equating in tax. If you equate in tax on the average salary, you're looking upwards of 60 to 70% of the average income going into your living expense. This is absolutely insane. There are hundreds and hundreds of other numbers that I could show you guys to prove that we are literally off worse right now than the Great Depression in the 1930s, which is absolutely insane to me. It's impossible to live cheap, impossible to pay your bills and be able to eat well. It's impossible to have a roof over your head, for crying out loud. People are so poor right now. It's insane. Hundreds of thousands of people are taking out loans on credit cards, on just crazy things in general. I mean, you can buy a pizza on a loan, for crying out loud. And this is putting people further into debt, but the average American family doesn't even have an option. This is what they have to do to get by every month. It is insane. So if you guys have noticed any of this, or you really feel like you are in a depression right now in your current state, go ahead, let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss this stuff. And again, these are numbers based off the average American. Some of you guys are going to be making way less than $56,000 a year. Some of you may be making double or triple that, maybe even more. So go ahead, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of all this. And again, hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.